So you're not from around here?
It's hard to explain.
Who is Carol Danvers? Carol herself doesn't know the answer to that question.
We found you with no memory.
The heroine of Captain Marvel is more powerful than any hero we've met, but she's a stranger to herself.
I see flashes.
You're not following a woman who's trying to get to somewhere. She's trying to get to herself.
Most Marvel character arcs are a journey of self-discovery. From Iron Man's revelation that he has a heart,
All this came from that.
to Captain America's evolution from patriot to insurgent.
We're outside the law on this one.
So it's no accident that the leader of Marvel's next phase embodies self-discovery on the most fundamental level. If her great challenge is figuring out who she is, then the movie's message is that daring to know yourself is the most heroic feat of all. Before we go on, we want to talk a little bit about this video's sponsor, Skillshare. Skillshare is a superb online learning community with thousands of classes about everything: photography, illustration, music production. Click the link in the description below to get 2 months access to all classes for free.
I keep having these memories. Something in my past is the key to all of this.
Carol's memory loss puts her in the same category as film protagonists like Jason Bourne
I can tell you that our waitress is left-handed and the guy sitting up at the counter weighs 215 pounds and knows how to handle himself. How can I know that and not know who I am?
or Hitchcock's Marnie Edgar.
I was having that old dream again. First the tapping, and then...
Characters with a complicated, often dark past that they can't completely remember.
Something happens, this sort of freak accident happened, which allows her to unlock certain memories that are happening in her brain that at first she thinks are maybe implanted because they seem so far removed from the world that she knew and the people that she loves.
This trope is powerful because it creates a particularly disturbing form of tension. Without your memories, you can't fully know yourself, so there's an inherent element of suspense to your life.
We found him, you killed him. But you didn't remember. So I helped you. Start looking again. Looking for the guy you already killed.
You're vulnerable to exploitation by those who do know your past,
I can say whatever the I want, and you won't remember.
or the source of your trauma.
You can't outrun what you did, Jason. You made yourself into who you are.
Unpleasant surprises can come from anywhere, including, and especially, from within.
Sex.
Masculine, feminine, Adam and Eve, Jack and Jill. I'll slap your filthy face if you come near me again.
Death.
Me.
This setup frames a person's psychology as a mystery, turning the protagonist into a detective of the self.
Try to think, why does the color white frighten you? Why do lions frighten you?
In many of these stories, the character either did something wrong or has been victimized, and that's why their mind is chosen to block out trauma. But these tactics of shutting out, running away, or retreating into lies don't work.
Just because there are things I don't remember doesn't make my actions meaningless. The world doesn't just disappear when you close your eyes, does it?
It's only through filling in those blanks, piecing together the truth, and solving the mystery of oneself that these characters find freedom.
I didn't kill my brother. It was an accident. It was an accident.
That's what has haunted you all your life. That was the memory you were afraid of.
Of course, I'm a cheat, and a liar, and a thief. But I am decent.
I'm no longer Jason Bourne.
Thus, these stories send the message that self-knowledge is power.
Don't you think you owe it to her to help her to understand what happened to make her like this?
So for Carol to harness her full power, she needs to answer for herself that most simple and significant question. Who is Carol Danvers?
I'm not what you think I am.
On one level, Carol's incomplete knowledge of her past is a nod to the complicated history of the comic book character. She first appeared in 1968 in Marvel's Superheroes number 13 as a love interest for a Kree alien called Mar-Vell, or Captain Marvel. In the 1969 comic book Captain Marvel number 18, Carol and Mar-Vell are caught in the explosion of a device called the Psyche Magnetron. But soon after the explosion, Captain Marvel's comic book series was canceled, and readers temporarily said goodbye to Carol as well. Then in 1977, the first issue of Ms. Marvel revamped Carol as an empowered protagonist and the editor of a women's magazine. Even the title Ms. announced that Carol was a modern, liberated woman.
It's Miss Marvel!
That's Ms. Marvel to you.
Gloria Steinem's Ms. magazine was founded in the early 70s, and adopting the Ms. salutation became a popular feminist gesture in that time. Now Carol had become a superhero. Ms. Marvel tells us that the explosion caused Mar-Vell's DNA to merge with Carol's, giving her special powers. But this explanation also sent a symbolic message that wasn't so modern, that Carol's strength came from her boyfriend. And at first, Carol didn't know she was a superhero. She would black out and pull off heroic feats, then not remember them afterwards, making her, as Vox's Alex Abad-Santos put it, a bystander in her own comic. Carol's story took a far more problematic turn a few years later. The comic book Avengers number 200 revealed she'd been kidnapped, brainwashed, and impregnated by Marcus Immortus. While she was initially troubled by this violation, her fellow Avengers didn't see the problem, and ultimately she changed her mind and fell for Marcus. Her story became even more tragic from there. She temporarily lost her powers, adopted several new identities, struggled with alcoholism, and was court-martialed by the Avengers. It was only in 2012 that Carol became the Captain Marvel we know, when her story was taken over by comic book writer and feminist Kelly Sue DeConnick.
The most special thing about Carol, I think, is actually the thing that is most like all of us, which is that she's very flawed, but she's trying so hard to do better.
The 2018 comic book The Life of Captain Marvel number 4 reframed Carol's origin story, explaining that the Psyche Magnetron explosion didn't give her powers from Mar-Vell, it just activated the powers she already had because her mother was a Kree. The movie continues this retconning, not giving her a love interest at all. So when we look back at the comic book character's muddled history of traumatic events, gaps and reinventions, this mirrors the psyche that can't fully grasp or face its own troubled past. Carol's journey from love interest to empowered feminist to victim and tragic figure to powerhouse hero is, as Abad-Santos said, the story of women in comics in miniature. One of the lessons of the mystery of the self is often that you can't erase the past. And if your mind tries to do this, that's when strange psychological dysfunctions arise. The same is true when it comes to Carol's comic book past. While it's tempting to want to forget about some of the darker, stranger parts of how her story was written over the years, it's important to look back and include it all, to better appreciate the complexity of the character in her modern reinvention.
You have to let go of the past.
I don't remember my past.
It's causing you doubt, and doubt makes you vulnerable.
This story about the mystery of self-identity, bearing the name of Marvel itself, signals that Marvel Studios is also doing some introspection and soul-searching through this movie. They're looking back into their own past, and perhaps facing that their history with gender dynamics has some problems.
She's a slut. I was gonna say something along that line. It's complete horror.
Like the fact that women have tended to be supporting characters in the MCU, and the way that many saw Avengers: Age of Ultron as reducing Black Widow to a damsel in distress and equating her infertility with monstrosity.
You still think you're the only monster on the team?
And as Marvel looks forward, they've made it clear that Captain Marvel represents the future of Marvel itself.
This is just the beginning.
Captain Marvel is about to take the lead and be at the forefront of the entire cinematic universe.
Brie Larson is the first Oscar-winning actor to lead a Marvel Studios movie, so this is the next step in Marvel's journey to becoming more critically acclaimed, which kicked into gear with Best Picture nominee and Oscar winner Black Panther. The film also continues Marvel's turn towards more diversity and inclusivity.
You're giving me orders now?
Yes. Not only is Carol the first woman in the MCU to get her own movie, but Captain Marvel is the first Marvel Studios film to have a female co-director. The post-credits scene in Avengers: Infinity War frames her as the person who will save the day after Thanos wiped out half of humanity.
She's one of the most powerful characters in the comics and will be the most powerful character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
So the symbolism is that, until now, Marvel has been ignoring this unprecedented power right under their noses by not calling on female leads and essentially leaving out half the stories they could tell.
About to show these boys how we do it.
Even though Carol is the strongest hero yet, she's no Mary Sue, which is to say, a female character without any imperfections or vulnerabilities.
She's short-tempered, and she's got an ego, and she always thinks she knows best.
She starts off being incredibly tough and strong, but it's really the vulnerability and the heart that comes into play that brings her closer to herself.
Captain Marvel reverses the setup of the Ms. Marvel comics. There, at first, Carol didn't know she was a superhero. Here, she believes she's a Kree.
And you're a Kree, a race of noble warriors.
Heroes. Noble warrior heroes.
And doesn't know she's human.
I think I had a life here. But I can't tell if it's real.
In a standard superhero movie formula, the character begins without powers, gets them, and eventually masters them. But this film introduces us to Carol when she already has special abilities. She has to connect to her human side. We can read into this symbolism that to unlock our greatest potential power, we have to embrace our humanity, including all the vulnerability and apparent weakness that entails. Carol's personal mantra,
higher, further, faster, baby,
is really about challenging herself to keep growing. And that's exactly what Marvel is attempting to do through her story. So who better to fearlessly lead us into the next phase of the MCU?
I'm kind of done with you telling me what I can't do.
Are you interested in learning the art of the perfect grilled cheese sandwich from the head chef of Plated? Do you want tips on how to go freelance from people at the top of their field? Have you always dreamed of mastering After Effects? How about calligraphy? Skillshare can help you turn those intentions into something concrete. Here at The Take, we want to improve our animation know-how, and we're using Skillshare to do it. They offer more than 25,000 classes about any skill you might want to learn, all for less than $10 a month. Right now, you can get 2 months access to all their classes for free. But that's only if you're one of the first 500 people to click the link in the description below. So don't wait. Try Skillshare today.